Good evening, everyone. I call the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Kent special meeting for December 11th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. to order. Great. Thank you, everybody, for all those that are watching from home. I understand why you would want to be here unless you have swim fins. It's getting kind of wet out there, I guess. At least it's warm that way. So, all right. I'm going to just go right to our public comment on an agenda item. It's one specific issue this evening, and that's discussion of our traffic enforcement safety devices ordinance. I do want to make sure everybody understands that we're going to be discussing the ordinance itself and information contained in the ordinance, and by virtue of that, the state statute that gets the ordinance is also, I guess, would be something included. So that's all we're going to be able to discuss. So I'll open it up to anyone at home that wishes to add anything. Since there's no one here, anyone else care to offer anything up?
Hi, Marty.
Hi, Lynn.
I just want to know if there's going to be another public comment session before the referendum.
Is there going to be a public comment before the referendum?
Yep.
In
or
what?
More.
In
Something in like another hearing, or where we can get.
There won't be another hearing. We've already had the hearing. We've already had the meeting. Here's Lynn.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, but the question was, Lynn, first one, is there going to be another hearing or any other public comment before the ordinance goes to the referendum? The answer is no. Right now, there's nothing planned. There's nothing required for us to do that. We did have the hearing. We have had our meetings to discuss what is in the ordinance itself and ensure that people understand what the ordinance is and where it came from, what the statute is, and that's as far as I think we can go right now with the referendum. We can't get into being an advocate one way or another. It's not allowed under our state statutes for referendum. We can only provide information pursuant to the ordinance and the other question on the cost, of course, on the referendum itself.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, hearing none. Go back to the board then. Discussion traffic enforcement safety devices ordinance. The ordinance itself and obviously the state statute that began it. So, yeah, any questions?
I noticed that in the documents folder there was no implementation plan. There was no.
There is no implementation plan.
I know, but I thought you were going to give us some like a template from the DOT.
They haven't.
They've given you no guidelines of what needs to be included, because you've talked about things that need to be included.
Correct, and according to the statute, that comes after you do the ordinance.
Yes, I understand that.
Right.
But
So,
did you hear what Sharon Norton said at our meeting on Monday night?
specifically,
How she thought it would be really smart to try to answer the questions that are coming up about the implementation.
we can't answer the implementation plan because we haven't had the chance to
But
discuss that
we
yet.
can say that we think that it will go this way.
We can only deal, according to the law, we can deal with the facts of what is in the ordinance and the facts of what's in the statute, not speculation of what we might put in, whatever. That's taking us down illegally, because then we're either predisposing ourselves to exactly what we're going to decide when we get to the implementation, whatever. So we cannot speculate.
We can't, so for instance, can we say who we think is a good person to be as hearing officer, or citation?
No, we haven't. That's not what's on the referendum. The referendum is for the ordinance itself. Discussions.
It's going to go down then, because if we can't answer them their questions.
But how can we answer them their questions
We can give.
when we haven't had those discussions about those issues yet?
That's what I thought this meeting was about.
No, this meeting was to talk about we want to talk specifically about the ordinance and make sure the information that's going before the referendum, that people understand it. And so if they have questions about what's in the ordinance or whatever, then we can factually say, this is what the ordinance says, this is what the statute says to reference the ordinance, and that's it. That we can't go into any speculation. When we had, if we were to go into something else, that's pure speculative. That's pure, that's pushing answers that we haven't come to any conclusion. We haven't had any discussion. We haven't had an RFP for any companies. Nothing's been done. So to speculate what would happen in that situation, that would, according to the people I've talked to, and that, according to Darlene and the lawyer, is that then you're either pushing people to making decisions before we've even had those discussions, and on things that are even by statute are to follow on to an ordinance. So, I mean, we could have those discussions. We'd all be open to any of those discussions. Anything that if the ordinance is passed, then all those discussions would be open. We would be able to make those decisions at that time. So it's got down to, do we want an ordinance that deals with the use of automated traffic enforcement safety devices or not, really? And here's what they would do: the $50, tickets,
Can we decide whether or not we'll send people to collections?
No, we can't decide that until we actually, but we can't do that before that. Because that's all part of the implementation. How many times? There's all kinds of, let's think about it. I mean, if we were to say, well, we'll do it if you miss 5, well, then we have to, that's a decision the board would have to sit and make and contemplate. We can't do that before the ordinance is actually dealt with. So what we're doing is leading people.
We can't say, if the ordinance is approved, we believe this is the right path to take.
And not until we actually sit and vote on it. We can't believe until we sit and vote on it. We have to go with the ordinance, and then any following discussion is open to all those questions are all open to hearing from the public. If it passes, if it doesn't pass, we're speculating for no reason. So, and again, it leads people to think that it's going to be a certain way when in fact it may not be a certain way. And that's the part that we have to be careful of, outside of what exactly we're voting on with the ordinance. And then, if the ordinance passes, the allocation of money.
So we do know that at least one town has approved this, Washington. And I probably should have followed more about how they did that, read some notes, but have you all done that? Has they've followed, so what you're saying?
But yeah, exactly. All their implementation plan came afterwards.
So their implementation plan came afterwards and not
Well,
before.
It has to.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
But speculate how we would do it, we can't really do that until we have a chance to have an open meeting. And right now, we have to deal with the steps.
Has Randy given you the same advice that you're saying right now?
Oh, yeah.
We can't say.
Right, and I've gone to people for prior referendums and so on, what they're allowed to put out and so on. Cornwall had one specific to, I think, transfer. And they were allowed to put out one fact sheet. The lawyers would have to look at anything we decide if we wanted to do something else. But the only thing that lawyers looked at and decided is what we have put out so far, is what we've voted on, what we looked at, and what we chopped on and made as our ordinance and off the state statute. So that's the fact that we have. I mean, so any questions about what the ordinance would do or mean to the town right now, is the specific having an ordinance is in the ordinance itself. Anything on to implement the ordinance, which is what the state would allow us to get into and do the specifics, establish a fine, so on and so on. It's like section 1, I think, section E. Any municipality that adopts an ordinance under the section shall also adopt the following: a hearing procedure, and so on and so forth. And that's what we would adopt after the ordinance. After any municipality that adopts an ordinance, that affirmatively adopts an ordinance, shall or must adopt the following situations that we would put in that written piece. That's the part that would still be open to anybody's input. Hearings, we could have information sessions, we could deal with that any way we want to, so that we could come to a conclusion of how we wanted to implement the actual ordinance itself, what decisions you want to make, how many miles an hour, and so on. But that's not, the ordinance just says you will have an ordinance that says that you will, follow the state statute. And the big thing is that we'll have this, the Ministry of Safety Zone. That is one of the areas that they're still working on exactly how that all works, but we can do it between us and the state. And the specific plate number, personal identifying information created and maintained in the town, we can't give out that information.
But
We have
you
the
said a
information.
lot of things at the hearing that you said we could do this, we could do that. So you were sharing
Well,
some
answering
information
those
at
the
the
questions
hearing.
of people that, yeah, we could, but we're not there. Now, first we have to get an ordinance. We could, the hearing to stay with the ordinance, they were speculating on all kinds of different things. We were trying to answer those questions, we all know. But it was all that is speculative. But right now, we can't be specific. We can't factually say anything of that nature, because that's not what we dealt with. We dealt with a hearing on the ordinance.
Well, I mean, we can say factual things. We can say factual things that are in the ordinance and
Yep.
that are in the state law.
Absolutely.
So
That are factual.
we can share that for the, like with citations, we can share for the first 30 days,
Mhm.
the speed enforcement, there will only be warnings.
Correct.
And we can share the first citation will be 50 plus $15 processing fee. The second citation will be 75 plus a $15. What about the thing I was talking about on Monday night about, I wondered if you had any conversations with Barbara about this. Because I was thinking later after our meeting, and it's like, normally when revenue comes into the town, it comes in as revenue,
Mhm.
income. So that is shown on the income page of the budget. And then when there's an expense, that's shown as an expense.
Okay.
It's not a net thing. It's two separate things. So if there are costs to running this program, they need to be under expenses. And they need to be transparent to the voters that this is how much it's costing to run this program.
Yeah, that can be done. I mean, that's part of where the state allows us up to $15 to
Exactly.
pay for management of that.
But that's why I think it's important.
Number of
It's
tickets.
important to say there's going to be a processing fee regardless of who we hire, who we contract with after that RFP process. But there will be, and you're probably saying now we can't say what it might be because that's
Right,
speculative.
we haven't said, exactly. We haven't given the specifics of, we're talking about paying in person. You can walk and pay in person, versus on.
And we can't make that decision
No, we
tonight.
can't. We haven't made, no, we can't make that decision. That decision has to be part of the implementation plan of the ordinance. So we have to stick to what the ordinance says, which is that we're allowed to charge up to $15 processing fee and $50 for each, initial violation and so on. That's what it says. So.
Well, I do think we should show both sides of the balance book, income and expenses.
I think we would have to do that as part of our budgeting process, part of our process.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about that at the hearing. We think it'll cost at least $2,000 a month.
We don't know that, again, because we don't know the
I
company.
think.
The RFP might say different. Again, that's speculative, but we will follow all of our procedures for hiring a company to do this if the ordinance is passed, and that includes RFPs and a little bit, making sure that we have a team that'll look at the companies and so on and see what they offer.
So would it also be speculative to talk about how much money that we might raise
Yes.
based on the data that we collected?
I mean, right. People can make that speculation on their own. Thanks for finding that 35 by 25 on that. In fact, the data, but yeah, that was, I didn't have them go back and change that. Or ask them to go back and change that. Right.
So we can share that information.
We don't really know. I mean, we don't know exactly because it might change in the first month of, giving out warnings. It might really make a significant difference, and, in time of year of implementation and people there's a lot of variables that we don't really know about. But it does, the state statute and our ordinance does allow us to make those decisions, as far as implementation, and get the input again from the town. What they think is the way we should go.
So I started trying to put together a presentation, but I didn't know that this information. share about the speculative nature of things.
Yes, it's-
I'm very concerned that, if we don't try to address the topics that were raised in the hearing, then people are going to feel frustrated and they're not gonna support this.
fine. They can look at what we're trying to do with the ordinance and look back to our meeting notes and so on. I mean, it's all available, and make sure that that's all available for people to look at. And then do their due diligence themselves as voters and just make their decision.
That's really, you've said some things to us in prior meetings that came out in the hearing and it was not accurate. Like this hearing officer could be the resident trooper. And then when we learned to know that's not true. You have to be careful when you say something like that.
But in a public forum, I did correct myself and said as I learned more information, I said, I thought that was the way to do it. It was not. What the state had decided was the best way to do it. So, I mean, yeah,
So, I guess I just wonder if there's certain things that we can pull out, that we can, basically you have the right to appoint. This was what came back in one of my questions. The first selectman shall appoint one or more citation hearing officers other than police officers or town employees to conduct the hearings authorized by this section. So there can't be anybody who's employed by the town. So it basically has to be volunteers.
yeah, I guess initially, although from what I understood, pursuant to that at CCM, is that some of the money could go to pay expenses for an individual. So, again, this program, as you just said at the beginning, there's 4 towns, one that's only really pushed it to it right now, which is Washington. There's 2 or 3 others on the eastern side, I guess, that are looking at this. There are a lot more towns in the area that are investigating it. That's a fact. But the state is still trying to figure out how to employ it and implement the whole thing. And there'll be changes, as it says in the statute, pursuant to any changes to the statute as they go along. So I have a feeling the state will tighten up or change or expand or whatever as they find more information back on it. But yeah, so yeah, there's stuff that I thought, and as I just expand more and learn more, discuss with you guys, know if it wasn't quite correct. So we're always fixing typos or misprints or slides that don't project very well. I know I'm passing out some information today.
So what are some topics that you have thought about that you think we need to share? Or is this all you think we share?
I think that's all we share. That's my recommendation would be to reference every one of our meetings where we discuss this. Republish the hearing. People who do have questions that did get answers, and then put this information out based on the state statute, based on is the ordinance, and this is what we're proposing for the town. Everything else is a subsequent to that. Like I said, we would also do this. We would also do a bunch of other things. There's a statute that we have to do.
So basically, do we have to say, you need to trust the selectmen that we are going to follow through in the best interest of the town because you have elected us as your representatives?
I would say that's part of it, sure.
Yeah, because
we've had many discussions on this. I mean, we have just considered this. I mean, it's not the first time. We've had months of looking at this, getting information, talking to the companies and so on. I think we're on my side. But it's basically straightforward what the state has said you can do as a town. We're not looking to do anything more than what the state has authorized us to do. There are variations for sure that, again, as we get the permission to do this, that would make sense to do it afterwards, because we don't want to spend all the time trying to come up with all the answers on something that, you're right, might not get passed. But towns may say, well, I really don't think we need speed cameras, so I'm going to vote against it. Or people say, yes, I think it's a great program, and we're waiting to see what falls on, and we'll be involved with the follow-on. That's really kind of what the town has to decide. And I know there's a lot of people on both sides that feel strongly about that. And I'm sure we'll hear from them in every aspect, on social media as well as everything else. But I don't think we can get into that kind of social media. And that's what I worry about if we try to speculate or try to presuppose an answer to something we haven't really had a chance to have a debate on, that is follow on to something that is, that needs to be worked on, which things certainly do. But it isn't like it's just the ordinance and then we disappear and cameras appear and, and things happen. There's more to it than that. And that's what we were trying to let everybody know, that the implementation plan is something that has to follow on after the decision of the town.
So will you commit that we can be part of the implementation plan? I mean, I'm sure you as the first selectman have the authority to just implement.
Well, I've said that before, like with emergency management and others, yes, it's my responsibility in some of those situations as first selectman, but we've always had a good discussion on the board. We've always tried to work together for exactly for this, you said, to let the town know that they feel that there's people that really can represent them and support them. So yeah, the implementation, we'd be putting it together, but we'll bring it to you all. And again, I expect that there would be, if the ordinance is passed, I know that there would be more involvement from the town as well on some of the other suggestions. And we would have to weigh those and consider what makes sense and what doesn't for building an approved plan, right, to go along with that. So the state would agree with us on. So yeah, it's not just on me. It can't be just on me. I got too much else.
I just want to make sure because I mean.
No, I would like to
understand you have a lot of authority.
Sure, but the authority also comes with working with the board, I believe. I think it's always been approach.
I think the difficulty is that this is such a new program.
Yeah.
Very few towns have implemented this yet. There's not much data we can just call up and ask, how is this working for you? So, and if this is what the state says we may do, this is an ordinance. We've done what we could, I guess. I understand the speculative nature. I do understand how people out there do want more information, without question, they've told me. But if this is the best we can do.
It is. And what I would really worry about is if we did get into some what ifs and so on, and all of a sudden, say it passes and the what ifs don't come to be, then we're in more trouble because we maybe let someone down the road. They thought that we said to do this. So that's why I wanted to deal strictly in the facts, the merits of whether you want to have, the town wants to have it. Get into a referendum again so that anybody that wants to be able to vote has a chance to, along with absentee ballots and so on, that everybody gets a chance, that we'll put everything that's factual out, every bit of our meetings, everything else will be combined and will be put out on the website and pointed to. If you want more information specifically to how we got here you go, that's factual. Here's the data, read that, go online. I mean, they can ask other people too. They can ask others. If there's a question that they don't understand of the language or something, that's certainly something that we could, have them ask on. I mean, what does it mean by a school zone? What is it, how far is a school zone? How far, approaching a school, would you have a camera? Could you have a camera? So on. Those things like that. Some of those things of that, even, as I said, especially pedestrian zone, the state is still working on how the town can designate one, and what the state agrees to it, or the state can designate one. And that's a question. The state would never designate a pedestrian zone that the town wouldn't want it to be and such, unless I think it was a bigger city or something, maybe. But
can we at least tell people where we intend the first cameras to go? Because I mean, I remember you saying, the way I understood it was in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, like going out of town. Is it out of town or into town?
That question today. It's coming from the 35 to the 25 into this town, the center section.
The 35 mark.
Yeah, the 35 mark coming into the 25. So yeah, so
that
they would have to be in that to where it would be. I mean, yes, and the state gets a decision on this too. They may say move it out and change because it's a state road. But yes, our
intent
is to, and that's what all the data that we have that somebody's like Chris Arrington asked for specifically is on the edge of 7 going north, or on the north side going into the town and the south side coming to the town. That's a piece that really, in my mind, for safety, as we talk about, this is a safety, really, or it's a safety issue as much as anything else, is to get those vehicles that are going at high rates of speed to slow down as they come into where we have new sidewalks going in, new people moving about, businesses opening up, school kids, our prep school kids and middle school kids walking around town. people crossing over. The fact is we don't have jaywalking. The state doesn't have jaywalking on state roads. So, we
So
do have
actually on
issues.
the north, it actually goes from 40 to 30. It doesn't go to 35. It's different.
Yeah, because they.
I've been having a super hard time going 30 up the hill to get home.
Well, remember, it's minimum of 10 miles over that.
Right, so we'd say in the 30-mile-an-hour zone, on the north going south. It's a pretty short little area too.
Well,
And then on this, and then 35.
Yeah, into 25 as we come, where the sign says, 35 to the 20.
We intend to put the.
We intend on the elements, right, that's exactly, the intent would be.
Because from the discussion at the hearing, people think we're gonna put it in the 25-mile-an-hour zone.
No,
Right, I know.
you want to get them to 25, get them into a reasonable, that the town has already agreed to reduce that area. That is. Anyway, yes, so no, it's not, we're not going to try to get someone in the middle of the 25 miles an hour.
Right, so I
But
think
again-
that's important for people to know.
The state does have, it's okay, T. The state does, say 10 miles over. So even then, and again, if it's passed, as part of the implementation plan, we decide what mileage we want to actually have it at a limit, as a height limit
So we could say we can go
That's right.
15 miles an hour.
over.
Right.
Yeah. That's what, yeah, sure. Absolutely. Those are the things that we can get to that can't decide on that until we actually have this passed. And then we can say- and that's because you have to, the discussions on that, it's going to take a while to do it, but we really need to look at the whole aspect of it. But if the ordinance, if they don't care to do it, then we're really speculating for,
And so, we can't say what our intent is to use the money for either.
no, it's specific to
I know.
where we can.
I know.
But no, we have to decide that when we actually see them. I think we can-
So we could highlight that, though, that this is where the ordinance allows us to
Absolutely,
spend the money.
absolutely. Yeah, you can spend it on the safety program itself, whether it's to, cameras or whatever you want to do. It could be to improve the roads and the traffic system itself. If you want to do a pull off or there's something else that needed to be done on our own roads or improve signage, we wanted to, pay for new signs or something in the middle of town. There was, fixing roads, I think actually fixing the roads so they're safer, in the area. It doesn't have to necessarily be there. And things like if you wanted to, again, use that money for traffic safety, you could do it for hiring additional trooper overtime for different roads and different events and so on. That could be, that's what it's intended for right now. There's 3 areas, I think it really is. Yeah, it can't go into, does not go into general fund, it's specific to that fund. It has to be audited every year, delivering state regulations and state citation statutes.
It's a separate fund,
Yeah.
not the
absolutely.
general fund?
Nope, absolutely not. It's a separate one that has to be audited every year. And all the equipment has to be monitored, everything has to be confirmed. Everybody that uses it has to go through specific training. The statute's pretty specific on that. The company that is brought in hired has to be the one doing the training, so you're actually working on that equipment. That's the other piece, trying to separate equipment maintenance or understanding how that system works and so on. So they're trained to do that. It's all done by your vendor.
So the fund is in the state statute.
Yeah.
I just wondered.
Yeah, calibration check. Check shows in by. For I think the hearing that anybody has to be trained, has to understand the use of the device and so on. Reasons why what you can appeal on is there, very specific. training. Actually, manufacturer residential issue signs certificate to devices. So signs must be put up, conspicuous signs that are in accordance with the Federal Highway Administration, that signage to let you know exactly that there are cameras in use and so on.
Says any funds received.
Right, funds received by the pursuing rights under this section shall be used for the purposes of improving transportation mobility, investing in transportation infrastructure improvements, or paying the costs associated with the use of automated traffic enforcement safety devices in the municipality.
Doesn't really talk about funds.
Yeah. You would have to read separate fund because it can't be touched by anyone else. The leads for that, so. And the town, I mean, obviously would want to look at exactly where that money is going. And should be it, so. And they take a vote. Part of our vote is to, again, put together on the town website, and send out information to leading people back to that, which is specific statute ordinance in our meeting, and the hearings and so on, as I want to go back and listen, people are actually listening to hear.
Can we answer this question? Why enact this ordinance? Board of Selectmen has heard lots of complaints about speeding on the roads in Kent. The state of Connecticut enacted legislation in 2023 that enables this type of activity from municipalities.
I think that's part of the record. I'd have to look into just the wording and why kind of pushing it one or another. For some reason, I guess I can understand, they don't want the municipality to be directing people.
Yeah, I
You
understand.
understand.
You
But,
don't want to try to.
No,
influence
to sway a
the
vote when you want people to look at the merits and so on, but to review the work we've done, but we've had that discussion, we have had that discussion in a meeting. I think the wording probably would pass muster. But consider the ordinance, so, do you think there should be, that's what people have to agree to, that they believe that it's an issue, that this is a tool to use. We have many other tools, we still have a resident trooper, we still have, personal involvement, we have, society, the social contract, taking care of each other. But those, there's a lot of questions in the hearing, that kind of got into that, people believe in that or not.
Yeah, I'm really nervous about directing people to the hearing because I think there was a perception that, you were trying to be as accommodating as possible. And there were people left with the perception there was a lot of unanswered questions. So part of that is what you just explained tonight. But I don't think it was explained clearly at the hearing that we can't answer all these questions because we have to do an implementation plan. We can't do the implementation plan till we prove the ordinance. It's really that simple,
You just.
But we didn't say that in the hearing. So, telling people to go watch the hearing, I don't think.
Well,
It's there, they can watch it, but I'm not sure I would direct people to the hearing.
No, I'm not directing you, but.
Did we actually, post, did we ever post the presentation that the company gave us? Or no?
That specific company, no, that was just it was part of the hearing. It's all in there. We didn't post it separate.
Can we do that? Or no? Because that is part of the hearing.
Without the verbal piece to it, I don't know if that would have, again, like anything else, would just be, I think the best thing to do is it was in the hearing.
Okay, well, what about presenting the traffic data that, the corrected one? points with maybe just with some more explanation at the bottom of what it is. This is the traffic data that we collected during this time. You know, the fact that is, you know, it was like the actual day that it started, the day the new speed limits were posted. And it went for, you know, 5 weeks.
I'll ask, I'll see.
Because I think that these are very compelling, but they do need a little bit more explanation. And people complained that they couldn't see them prior to the hearing. So.
Right, I mean, see how the best, I'll ask, the best way we can do that. Because they're factual, I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Recommended.
As long as we fix the one that's wrong.
We did, yeah, we have, right, yeah, it's actually.
The North
right,
Kent
inside,
one,
Yeah, at 35.
the North going. And were they actually going,
Into.
they were definitely into town?
Yeah, excuse me.
Oh, yeah, that was in the 25-mile-an-hour zone, because I paid attention to where 87 is. It's not in 30.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones we put up, and constantly tried to move that.
Right.
To, you know, to catch anything, you know, there was a problem with.
So it makes the data even worse, because it was 25 and people were going 40.
Yeah, it's
To the
representative, it's not,
52.
yeah, it just is.
That's factual and not speculative.
No,
That is
No, this is the data we collected.
the data we collected, the data we collected.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we could write something.
Okay, that's.
So that, I would say those three, or if we, and then I would say where our intent is for where we're going to put it. So it's very clear it's not going to be in the 25-mile-an-hour zone. It might even make sense not to put the north one in there, because that might confuse people. Because it was put in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. And then where can the income be used on expenses, and just list it out. I know it's in there, but I'm just trying to make it easy for people who don't want to read whatever, how many pages those documents are. I don't want to read, Marty.
Some people do.
Right.
But no, that's, yeah, I mean,
No,
yeah, you could.
even if it was, 5 slides or something like that, that's a PDF.
You
you know?
could paraphrase that.
Yeah.
Factual, it's part of it, so. Jazzed up a little bit
Okay.
with the graph and things. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as.
Yeah, they're important piece to it. Okay, all right, we'll do that.
In the end, we have to, people can watch our meetings, people are watching now, but we need to explain ourselves. We need to make it clear to people why we're doing what we're doing. Factually. And I think that's important. So, again, because this is so emotional.
Sure, certainly, and I'm glad that people.
We always need to be factual. We always need to be logical. The more information, like we've been saying from the start, the more information we can get out, the better. But if it's factual and not speculative, I get that. I get that.
Okay.
So we don't need to make a decision or motion or anything. It was just.
No, we'll put it together and you guys will see it. If we need adjustments, you'll let me know, but we have some time to get this out. We'll get this out. Yeah, next few days.
Yeah, and if we could get something out in the next few days, the public can check it out, and then we meet again next week, and we can.
Right, yeah, exactly. There's no questions there. Absolutely.
If things need to be tweaked or something, so.
Sure.
No, I think we should. I mean, I would think that we could just ask Marty to fix something. If we see something, we just ask him to fix it.
Yeah, we don't wait until next.
No, we have our regular meetings off top.
Oh, yeah.
Where people can talk about it.
Yeah, but at least.
But we'll have something there before then.
Do we want to encourage people, if they have unanswered questions, just come to our next regular meeting on Thursday?
We have
You know,
open
I
comment.
know, but I'm just saying, if people are going to be upset about the fact that there's no town meeting,
The second one.
or a second hearing to
Oh, I mean,
just come ask us questions. And we'll do our best to answer in a factual way that we can. We can't speculate them.
You're right.
And make it clear that we,
And we're meeting the 19th, but we're also meeting earlier in the month before the 7th, right? So it's January.
yeah, we're meeting on the 8th, so it's after.
Okay. Sorry.
Can, Adam, I know this isn't on the agenda, but can we, change our meeting
We'll
time?
talk next week,
Can we?
We can do that. We can do that. It's already planned.
Because, okay, good.
but we're not talking about it.
Okay.
It's on the
I just
agenda.
wanted to make sure, because
No, we understand your circumstances have changed. Okay, all right, then I'm going to, yeah, that was it. Motion adjourned. So moved. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Joyce.
11.
And yeah, stay dry as you can.
Take care.